as an unnecessary or wasteful project or activity. A bonanza is a big mineral find or other source of great wealth or prosperity. We've had plenty of both in Alberta over the years, and Calgary writer Brian Brennan tells the most colorful yarns in Boondoggles, Bonanzas, and other Alberta stories. And for every story of striking it rich, there seems to be another one of abject failure. Brian Brennan is with us this afternoon. Good to have you here once again.
Thank you, Ian.
Of course, when you talk about bonanzas in Alberta,
Yes.
you think about oil.
Yes.
The big oil finds. And,
yes.
and you touch on Leduc and Turner Valley and
right.
Fort McMurray as well.
Yeah.
I found it interesting to learn that the first oil in Alberta was in a national park, though.
That's right, in Waterton. And there seems to be some speculation now that, in fact, it was what they call a salted well. They did discover oil in Waterton around the turn of the century, and this was, in fact, before it was a national park. And the well did quite for a couple of years. And in fact, they were in the process of building what they thought was going to be a city down there. And then then after about 5 or 6 years, the well ran dry, and that was the end. And then after that, Waterton became a national park, and as a result, you couldn't go in there and start drilling in other parts of the park to find out if there might be more oil. But what's kind of interesting, I think, is that the fact that there was oil discovered just north of there in Turner Valley sort of says to me that if they had the same technology that they have nowadays to go into Waterton, that they probably would have found a lot more oil, but of course they can't.
It could be there, you never know.
That's right, it could be. Yeah.
When you talk about colorful characters in Alberta, there's this fellow named Ralph Klein who comes to mind.
Yes.
How surprised were Calgarians when he was first elected mayor?
I think we were very surprised because I was working in the news at that point, and Ralph, of course, was working for CFC on television, and so those of us in the media, we gave Ralph what we thought was going to be a sympathy vote, and we woke up the next day and we looked at the newspaper and we said, "My goodness, what have we done? We actually elected the guy."
An amazing career. He literally never has lost an election.
No,
never.
He hasn't. No.
From one success to the next.
Yeah.
Now, another story Ralph Klein might have covered in his days at CFCN was that of Cal Cavendish.
Yes.
An interesting character.
Very interesting character. This was the frustrated country singer and an amateur pilot who had just actually lost his pilot's license, and his singing career was going nowhere, and so he decided to make a statement. So he went up in his light plane. He took off from Springbank, flew over Calgary. He had brought a bunch of birds along with him, his singles, and also a couple of bags of cow manure. And he buzzed the Calgary Tower a few times, and then he dumped his load on downtown Calgary, and then flew out to Brooks, landed the plane there, and basically went to a local hotel and phoned the RCMP and turned himself in. And of course, if you're a frustrated country singer and you want to get your name on the front page, I guess that's the way to do it.
That's one way to do it. Was anyone, shall we say, directly affected by the load he dropped?
I don't think so.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
No, he was arrested and charged, and he was fined, and he lost his license for another while. And then subsequently he became a long-distance trucker. And he was still performing a little bit, and he came back to Calgary for a concert a few years ago. And so he was asked about this incident back in 1975 when he Calgary Tower, and he said, "Well, I've learned my lesson." He said, "I was young and not very intelligent then." He said, "But now," he said, I'm a long-distance trucker, and I've learned my lesson."
I'll never do it again. That's
right.
Just one of many quirky stories in this book.
That's right.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Ian.
And Brian Brennan will be reading from his book at a number of WordFest events, including the Kickoff Cabaret next Wednesday at the Uptown Stage.
Thank you, Ian. Still ahead, how